So hello everybody and welcome to this MyHeritage one-day genealogy seminar from the headquarters of MyHeritage in Israel. We're very happy to have you here today, both sitting in front of me on the audience or from wherever in the world you are watching this webinar. My name is Daniel Horowitz. I'm the expert genealogist of MyHeritage. And I will be the presenter for this webinar, for this presentation. You have a little bit of my bio over there. I just would like to point out that I'm very happy to be working for MyHeritage for more than 13 years. I think we should celebrate a bar mitzvah party this year. I think that's appropriate, right? But really, it's a little bit more than that. It's not just working for a genealogy company, which is also my passion, but being able to help and to meet with people all over the world and help them doing their own research. That's why also I volunteer in a few genealogy societies, which IGRA being here in Israel, the main one. Without further ado, let me go to my presentation, and today I'm going to talk about a few new, but for sure advanced features and technologies that MyHeritage presents you when you use our website to build a family tree and to research our records. A little bit about the company itself. We're talking about one of the leading global services for family history and DNA testing. This is how the company is being recognized nowadays in the whole world. But again, our goal is helping millions to make amazing discoveries. And we do that basically with three tools or three trends that we have available. First of all, we had family trees. That's how the company started, a place to save, keep, and share your family trees. We have 45 million of those with 3.5 profiles in total. And these are family trees coming from around the globe. MyHeritage supports and works in 42 languages. So we actually have users from every country in the world. We also have 9.7 billion historical records from all over the world. We understand that no matter where you are or where you're coming from, you need the records to verify the information that you heard from your relative. And the only way to make sure this is happening is by going to those historical records. And lately, we came into the DNA business. So right now, we have 2.5 million DNA kits. Mostly are MyHeritage users, and we're selling DNA kits all over the world. We're selling very heavily in Europe as well, which is where most of the people are now looking for the relative. But we also allow people to upload from other companies. So if you have done a DNA test with another company, you're more than welcome to upload into MyHeritage. Now, this is the website, the homepage of MyHeritage website, and I'm sure that you may not recognize this page because this is probably the least visited page on the website. Like everybody goes directly to the family tree, and you are already missing a lot from the homepage, because the homepage is not only will give you a log of what you and your other members of the website have been doing, but we're going to also give you here notes and news about what we have found for you. In this case, well, MyHeritage is telling me that it made a discovery for me, and a discovery is based on matches, and probably you have experienced those as well. The difference is that with a discovery, you can add a whole branch of a family in just one click. So it's not one by one, it's up to 50 individuals depending on the discovery that we have for you. We will tell you also when your DNA results are ready, when other people are working and are doing things here. But again, yes, the most visited page for sure is the family tree. And as you can see, this is my family tree. I would like to drop here a word because I choose this screen on purpose. As you see, there are some people that are privatized. This is actually the view of my website if you would go in and you are not a member of my tree. So living individuals are privatized except for me, my wife, mother, and kids. I left over there public as in purpose. But my aunt and my cousin and other people here are all privatized. So you don't need to worry about privatization. If you want, you can go into the settings and you can actually privatize that without any problem. Then what you have probably experienced already is the matches. And MyHeritage will give you both smart matches and record matches. That you already know for many, many years. I like more the record matches, and let me show you why. Because I sort them by source. I think that it's easy to go just by a particular census or a particular collection of obituaries or city marriages, and then clear all the matches that I have from that particular collection. The one that I like probably the most is the 1940 US Census. And it's not because I have a lot of family in the States in that year, but that is quite a unique census because census in the United States happened every 10 years. So you would think that in 1940 you will have a gap until 1930. But they were good enough to ask you where you were in 1935. So it's actually a census that gives you 5-year gap between the last 1930 and the 1940 census. And I have found a lot of my family over there. In this case, Jacob Singer, I have it over there. I am gaining his residence. Now, how many of you have realized when you have a match that MyHeritage will tell you what you are gaining from this match? Okay? A lot of people said, well, I have thousands of matches. Yes, you're welcome, but sometimes you need to focus, right? We just learned that you need only 15 minutes gap to do your genealogy. So you may want to concentrate on those that have new information. And I do know that you also hate to type that information, so you only like copy and paste, and MyHeritage also have a tool to do that. The first thing you have to do is to verify that this is the right person, that this is the information of the cousin or the uncle, and he was actually born in Romania in 1908, and he was in the United States in 1940. So I will also like to view the actual record. I don't trust on transcriptions or OCR. I want to read it with my own eyes, even if it's impossible to read. I still want to see that record. I can see also other people living over there, but let's not get distracted. I will confirm the match, and then MyHeritage will allow me to pick and choose the information that I am missing in my tree. And it may be new information, like the residence in this case. It may be different information. If you have a different last name or a different spelling of the name, we will alert you about that. And then you can simply click on the arrows in the middle and just pass that information to your tree. Sometimes for the first person or for the first fact, the source citation will be pre-clicked. Make sure that that is the case, and if not, make sure that you click on the source citation so you know each of the facts where they came from. Otherwise, again, in 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, you're going to find yourself scratching your head and trying to figure out where did you got this information from. Also, as important is to click on the Save to Tree button at the bottom of the page, because just by clicking on the arrow, the information is not saved to your tree. You actually need to click down Save to Tree in order to collect this information into your tree. Now, let's try to go in order to the lesser knowns tools that MyHeritage has for you. And this one is one of my favorites, actually. It's under the home menu, and it's called Family Events. MyHeritage will take all the events based on your family tree. I'm talking about birth and marriage, and then it will remind you of the upcoming events, upcoming birthdays and anniversaries that you have in your family. You can go into the website and you can see for the upcoming months or weeks. Then you can click on a specific day. You can see all the people who are celebrating something in my family. And whenever you click on the title of the event, you will be able to write a particular message. So this is what I do. Every first of the month, I spend between 15 to 20 minutes. I go over all the events of that month. I put a message over there, templated, of course, copy paste. And then the person receives an email with the message the day of the event. And my family really thinks that I spend hours every day sending those messages to them, but no, I do this 15 minutes once a month and everybody loves me. Now, you will get alerts about the events coming up, and this is especially useful for us gentlemen. You know, it's chocolates and flowers, not chocolates or flowers, both for birthdays and anniversaries. So we will always be reminded about those events in our family. Now, let's go back to the family tree. And how many of you noted that under the menu of the family tree, you have actually a more? Yes, you have more things down there. One of the, also my favorites are the PedigreeMap. This is kind of a relatively new tool where MyHeritage is going to pinpoint all the places that you have in your family tree. And you can for sure filter and decide which ones you want to look into it. If you want to look only at birth, marriage, death, photos, how many generations back, how many years. If you don't care for all the early ones, you can decide that you're checking only 100 years back. You can also create this for any person in your family tree. Right now, this is my own perspective and extended family. I can choose immediate family, ancestors, descendant, and here I have a trick. If I would like all the people in my tree with no filters and no limitations, if you click on PedigreeMap on the title right here, you actually will get this to process everybody in your tree and not just a specific individual. If you want a specific individual, of course, that you can always do that as well. Now, why this is useful? Because this is trying to validate your information. And we all make mistakes when we do our genealogy. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes without noticing. For example, if I would like to see all my people related to Romania, I will click on Romania and I will get a zoom in of the map. I will get more specific places in my map, depending always on the information that you have on your tree. And you will see also the list of those different places right here. Why this is useful? Because when I was planning a trip, a family trip to Romania, I wanted to make sure that the tour guide took us to the right places. So I actually printed out the list of places. I had it on a map. I had it, the list, not only the place, but what happened in each one. So when I arrived to the place, I knew what I was looking for. If I was looking for a birth, I was looking for a cemetery, for a marriage, what events happened over there. Now, sometimes, as I said, information may not be accurate. And I don't know here in the room if you can see down there on the screen, there is a question, an exclamation mark. Yes, and this tells me that for some reason my information on the tree is not accurate. Now this is based, of course, on Google Maps, so it will need to be today's address. If I'm writing over there a historical address, we may tell you that this is not accurate and this is not exactly the address. But we will get you also some possibilities where you can click and choose the right one. More than that, okay, you can confirm this location for all the events that you have in that particular location. So the change will happen across the tree with just one click. Let me move a little bit forward. Yes, you can also type and edit the place manually, but I wanted to reach to the dots that you can see over there in the middle of the screen. That is definitely a problem with the address, and it's not this case, but the question here is really Bucharest, it is spelled like that, and probably Google Map have different regions for different countries, and it's creating any conflict and is alerting me about that. And again, I can cancel and I can just ignore that and say, yes, this is what I want, how I want the place. Because, let me give you an example. My grandfather was born in Herța, Romania. The only problem that today, if I would like to go and visit the town, I need to go through Ukraine, because today the border is moved a little bit south, so Herța is part of Ukraine. But I still want to keep Romania as his place of birth, and the map doesn't quite figure that out. Now, another interesting thing is that if I go to the very bottom of this list, we will show you unknown countries. And every time that my kids are bored, I give them the computer or the phone and I dare them to find Yugoslavia in the map. Yes, it doesn't exist, but they have quite a time trying to find it in Google Maps. So we will alert you about countries that we cannot find either because the spelling or the countries are not there. Austria-Hungary is not there anymore, but I still want to keep it like that. Or some of the others that have timeout over there. Yes, Palestine is another option that it's actually there. It is different location. Again, the border moved. Now, keeping on the more on their family tree and trying again to improve your family tree, we have the consistency checker. And with all my travels and with all the people that I meet all over the world, I have only met 2 individuals that the consistency checker came out with 0 mistakes. And you need to understand that this is something that actually will tell you a lot about your inputs. And you can, of course, print it also and just going and checking as your to-do list on fixing those mistakes. Right now, we're looking into 3 categories. Some can be real mistakes. Some can be just warning about things that doesn't make sense. And the third one will be notices, things that you should look and they may or may not be correct. For example, okay, we have birth after death. That's definitely a mistake. You did something wrong over there. Child born after the death of the parent. Well, it's possible, yes, only if it's the father, and it happened 9 months before. Sometimes, again, critical cases with the mother, but again, it's unusual, I will say. If you have a child born after the death of the parents, you should look into it, and again, it may or may not be. Now you have warnings: die too old, alive but too old, parent too young, and you can configure those years. MyHeritage will bring you some by default, like 110, 120 years for all people, or 16 and 14 for young people to marry. But yes, again, back in those days, that's what they used, and you can just change that and configure it for you. Large spouse age difference. Married too young, died too young to be a spouse. All those things are things that MyHeritage is going to warn you. Prefix as part of the first name. You just put doctor or professor as part of the first name. That is wrong. You have a field for that. Suffix in the last year. Year with 2 digits. Yeah, 96 is not a year. It's either 1996, it's 1896. It will depend on you. Let me keep going down to the notice. Death date resembles cause of death. That's also a mistake. You just made a typo. You pasted on the wrong place. Double space in the name. Same-sex spouses. Well, that's not necessarily a mistake. MyHeritage support same-sex spouses. You just need to tell, yes, this is correct. And I will show you how to do that in a second. My favorite is actually siblings with different last names. Same parents and still different last names. Yes, it happened on my family. The first kid is named after the mother. The second kid is named after the father. The third kid is named after the neighbor who didn't have any kids. Why? Because they were trying to avoid army. And the first kid of the family never goes to the army, right? So definitely you need to go and you need to configure those for you. Now, I said that sometimes this may not be a mistake. This is my family. This is the way my family is. So you can almost not see it, but right there on the corner, there is actually an X. And that will allow you to ignore that specific issue. And MyHeritage will not remind you about that anymore. You can also ignore the whole issues, the whole multiple marriages in this case. And again, we will not alert you about that. Sometimes you can fix things right from here. If it's a prefix or a suffix or an H or something like that, something easy to fix, you simply need to put your mouse below and just click on move names or move dates, fix that issue right from here. You don't have to go to the family tree in order to fix the mistake. Okay, relationship report. How many times you have asked, yes, but how we are related? And then you start thinking on the family tree and you start saying, okay, so his father was her mother's uncle, second cousin, twice removed, right? It gets complicated. Yes, so we have a relationship report for that, and you will be able to type any name or pick yourself from there. You can choose other individuals from your family tree. You can set how many details you want this report to be created. And very easily, you can see that my father's father had a brother that had a kid. So me and Roberto, we are second cousin twice removed, right? Very easy. And if you want to send this, you can save it as an image, or you can simply keep scrolling down and see what is the relationship between you and the person and send specific details to other people. Now, sometimes relationships will be more or less complicated to put it together. If you are definitely very long connected relative, sometimes the relationship will not appear, because if you have too many marriages in the middle, you will not be able to see how the relationship goes on. Now, print charts and books. You have no idea how many people ask me, how can I print a family tree? Well, right there in the charts and books, you have many options to print. Bow tie, close family, ancestors, descendants. As you want, you can choose vertical, descendant, horizontal, even what we call a family book report. Now, I personally don't like to print. I use it only with one exception when I go to any family gathering, because it's easier, even that I have my mobile with me, it's easier to see it in printed, not for me, but for the other people. And then when it's printed and I have all my details over there, people normally tell me, you're wrong, this is not right, you're missing this piece of information. So I do annotations over there, and then I do my research. I don't believe just because they said it so. Now, the other reason why I don't like printing that much is because the moment the chart goes out of the printer, somebody dies, somebody born, somebody married, and then it's not accurate anymore. But still, let's leave questions till the end, please. Still, you have a few options on the design, and MyHeritage takes good pride on the default ways of printing a family tree that we offer you, with pictures or with no pictures. You can choose any main person. So again, very nice if you generate this, and I will show you in a minute that you can save it as a PDF and you send it somebody as a present for the birthday. It will take you 5 minutes, and people will be drawn to your tree and will be very grateful with you. You can customize, again, the facts that you want, how you want to show everything over there. If you want single page or multi-pages. Multi-pages, again, I use it for my kids. If I print my family tree, it comes out to between 30 and 40 pages. So I give it to my kid as a craft project, and they need to put it together, okay, on the wall, and it's kind of nice. If you want to create a PDF for big professional printing or just to send it to somebody else, I will suggest you to use a single page, but then again, you will need to use professional printer. Now, once you create your chart, it will be listed here. You can go, you will receive as well an email when your chart is ready, and you can share this email with the image with other family members. When you go back to the website, you see that my chart that I just created is ready, and I can view it either in a PDF and download it, or I can order a poster, and that will be shipped also to whatever address you want. So we will take care of the printing, we will take care of the shipping. You only need to take care of the phone coming in and thanking you for this beautiful present. You can create as many charts as you want. It's a totally free feature. Okay, so no limitations over there. Now, let's go back to home, and we already saw the events. The next issue that I would like to point out is the statistics. How many of you uses this statistics one? Yeah, it's very useful just to check curious issues or things about your family tree, like how many is the ratio between males and females, living or deceased. Well, we all know that most of our relatives in our family tree are going to be dead, right? That's not surprising. But also relationships and common last names, first names in your tree. But more than that, I used it at the beginning when the consistency checker was not there, to check for my oldest living relative. And yes, 104 for my relative, that was not a mistake. She actually died when she was 104. And I can see the top 10 individuals for each category. So if I know that probably those people are not alive today, they are 99 years, I can just go and use this again as a to-do list and verify if these people are just marked as living and I need to kill them or mark them as deceased, and then regenerate those stats again. You also have, marriages, who was the oldest to marriage or the youngest to marriage, and you can verify your information over there as well. If I keep going down, the longest marriage, and probably that definitely merit any award today with so many people getting divorced, or the shortest marriages, which probably you will get more and more about that. You have also children, most amount of children over there, least amount of children, and yes, I have a couple of relatives that definitely takes all the awards on their life. Okay, yeah, he had a child when he was 77 years old. Well, miracles happen. Now, I do know that a lot of you are concerned for sharing this with other family members. If you are starting your genealogy, you definitely want to invite other relatives to come back to the tree and help you fill it up. This is how the site members page will look like, and it's again under the homepage. On the first group, you're going to see people that somehow found my website, either by smart matches or by searching on the database of MyHeritage, and they have a connection with me and they want to be part of my tree or my website. So I can see why the person here review the request, why this person wants to be a member of my website, and I can review that. I can contact the person and say, I'm not sure why you want to be a member of my website, why you need to see everybody over there. You need to give me a little bit more of explanations. I can approve him and then he becomes a member, or I can reject him and then he cannot have access to my website. Then the second part will be the actual members, and of course you can see that me right there as the online owner. But you see, I invited my cousin Alberto over there. I invited 7 years ago and he never came and never visited. Maybe you should remind him about coming into the website and helping you adding more information there. So maybe the email that you had back there was not accurate. You can here change the emails, and a lot of people change emails very often. So you put over here the right email and you just send a reminder. MyHeritage will send an email to that email address and will remind him that he was invited to your tree. Whenever he is already a member of the tree, you can decide if he can collaborate with you or he can only see the information that you have. This is actually how I have my family tree. I don't like people touching my research because nobody knows where they got their information from. But again, if you're new and you have a small tree and you really want people to help you, or you have one person in the family that is also a genealogist and you trust that person, you can upgrade that person into an administrator or a manager, and he will have a little bit more of the powers. All this, I will suggest you to dedicate some time to go into the settings of the website and making sure that the website does exactly what you want. And another feature that I use quite often is the possibility to send an email to all my members, especially New Year's or some special event for the family. I just send an email. The email will force them to go into the MyHeritage page, to the family tree, and that's how I drag my people into the tree. You can also put specific address, physical address for any person right here. I didn't want to left DNA out of this presentation, so I choose under the DNA tools the very latest tool that we have added for DNA, and that is the auto cluster. A lot of people out there are requesting and are getting their auto clusters. They are ecstatic with the colorful and the movement that this tool has. It's really nice how it reorganizes all your or most of your DNA matches, but a lot of people don't really understand how this can be useful. So if you give me 2 minutes, I promise you, you will find out how this can be used. First, you can generate an auto cluster for any of the DNA kits that you are managing. In this case, I actually generated one for myself. And the auto cluster is something that right now is not actually on the website. It's going to be sent to your email. So very shortly, you are expecting to receive an email like this. Now, besides, on the contrary of other emails that you may have received from MyHeritage, this is the only one that actually has an attachment. And it has a zip file. A zip file is a compressed file, multi-file system. So in that zip file or compressed file, you will find 3 files. A PDF, which is common to everyone, and it's just the explanation of how to work and what it is the auto cluster. A second one, which is a spreadsheet with all the numbers. And some people like more numbers, and they can put this into other tools out there and see the different variations and things. I like more the HTML. I'm more a visual person. And when you double click on that HTML, your computer should be able to know what to do. It will actually open it in the browser. And you're going to see something like this. Of course, without the gray areas, because I have privatized all the names of my matches right there. So I'm going to have the same names, horizontal and vertical. Okay, so the diagonal will be the person matching himself. What the auto cluster did is group the different matches that you have in common. So all the people that are in my first group, it means that we share a lot of DNA all together. This is kind of a triangulation. You may have heard this word regarding DNA. So common matches, which in my personal case, and I have seen bigger red areas depending on the individuals, in my case is totally useless because I'm Ashkenazi Jew. And we have a lot of endogamy on our DNA, meaning that I will show a lot of people related to myself, which I really don't know how we are related because the relation is very far away on our tree. Now, if you think that this happens also only to Ashkenazi Jews, believe me, you're wrong. Let me give you another example that I learned recently when I was in New England. Those people from the Mayflower, they didn't jump immediately and hang out with the Indians. They did a lot of endogamy and intermarriages with themselves. So the DNA, again, recombined over there, and they have a big pool of all the people descending from the Mayflower. Something also very important that you need to understand is that there is a threshold in this tool, meaning your very close relatives are not going to appear here. Your cousins, your parents, your grandparents, we already know, and you know also who they are. Also, the very far relative will not appear. So we're talking about like a middle group in your matches. Now, for me, the second cluster is actually the most clear example of how this works. And if you can read the screen, you will notice very easy and very fast that there's a name that repeats itself, Singer. And it's obvious that my singers will be also DNA matching relative among all of us. You see one lady over there, and you know that there's a lady because there are 2 surnames over there, one in parentheses, and this is right, her son, Wolf, and he also shares DNA. You also see a couple of Finkentals over there, which are brothers, and yes, I have done my research, and they are actually part of the Singer family, same as Sattinger. So I'm only missing 2 names, Schumann and Murphy. And those are actually the people who I have no idea who they are. But I can guarantee you they are related to me through my Singer family. So I have a clear lead, the path that I should go in order to find out how we are related. And I'm not a number person, but this probably is the only time that I will dedicate some time to look at the numbers. Because we will tell you, of course, the centimorgans and the largest and the segments and all that, but we will also tell you how many people they have in their tree. And as you can see, most of them have 7,717 individuals. They are all in my tree, except for those two, Schumann and Murphy. And you can see also that they have very little information about their family trees, so they are not big genealogists. It's going to be a challenge to try to find out the connection, especially, and let me tell you and give you a little bit of a heads up, with the Murphy case, especially because if you are familiar with last names, Murphy is more an Irish name, right? Yes. So this lady was grew up knowing that she's 100% Irish, both from father and mother side, until she did a DNA test and she came out 50% Jewish. Well, she learned that her father, or the person that she knew as his father, was not his biological father. Definitely his father is related to my singers, and this is a branch of my family who I have researched extensively. Still have not been able to pinpoint that singer in the New York area that is the bio father or probably grandfather. Remember, again, we have endogamy here, but hopefully very soon I will have a complete lecture about how I found my cousin, my Irish cousin, right there. Okay, so by this, I think I am right in time. I would like again to thank you, all of you, for being here and attending this webinar as well. I would like to open the floor for questions and being able to read also some of the questions from the audience on the webinar. So while I do that, please let me answer first one of the questions here. The gentleman had a question early in my presentation. So go ahead, this is the time. Good. So the question is how we can safekeep our family tree, not necessarily or not only on the website. And yes, this is kind of a very valid question. So you always have the option to export the family tree, meaning download it from the website to your computer. You can do that in a JETCOM format. The JETCOM format will have all the details. We'll also have the URL of the photos. That's why you have two options. Either you also save the pictures and you can download the different albums and different pictures, or you simply keep a backup of them on your computer before you upload it to MyHeritage. Or the other option will be to use a software. And MyHeritage has a free software called Family Tree Builder. You can install it in your computer. The information will synchronize to your computer. And when you export the JETCOM, still the JETCOM from the software, the software will ask you if you want to have the pictures also attached over there. And if I'm not mistaken, and I don't have any MyHeritage PM here, but I think that the website also asks you if you want to download the images. I'm not sure about the website, but definitely the software will allow you to keep the JETCOM with those images, and you can upload and put it into other softwares, and the images will be connected to the individuals on the tree. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question is how other people will be able to manage our trees, both on the websites to look, definitely, and I'm going to take advantage of that question to answer here. Catherine is also asking, can the people make changes to your tree if you invite them? So definitely, yes, the first thing you need to do is to invite them to your tree, even if they cannot do any changes. And Catherine, as I said before, if you go into the settings of the tree, you will be able to decide if you want members to change things and to touch your facts, or you want only managers to do that. And then you will need to upgrade individuals to managers, as I showed before. Now, we also have here in MyHeritage the case that you are saying, okay? People manage their trees, they passed away, the other invitees, the descendants of the people, communicate with our support team. We make sure that these people is the ones that they say they are, and then we give them access, and we move the tree on into them. I know that for other people, I know that today lawyers are actually advising you to include not only MyHeritage as a website, but your email accounts as part of your will. And they will notice passwords or retrieving methods, and they will be mentioned in the will, as well as successors of you. But the best practice and the best way will be simply invite more family members into the tree, make sure that they have access and they can share and connect with MyHeritage at a certain point. Yes, sir, on the back. Okay, so let me summarize the question. Like, if you have multiple trees on your website, and you can do that, and if you get instant discoveries or matches, but the question was related to the instant discoveries and bringing a whole branch again, how you can be certain that you are doing it for the right tree that you want? Well, the answer, or the first part of the answer, will be very honest. I don't know. But I would think that if you have duplicate people in the trees, and I do know that we, by default, and you can change that under manage trees, we set one tree as your default one. And probably all those discoveries are going to come first to your default tree. Now, anyhow, whenever you import those into your tree, you will see a tag on top that says new. And I strongly encourage you to go and to review those new addings to your tree, and making sure that this is the information that you wanted to add, and this is the tree that you wanted to add. And if not, then you will have, I would say, unfortunately, the manual task to copy the information into the right tree and to delete it from the tree that you don't want them. So the question is, if I'm opening and looking at the tree, just by looking at and accepting a discovery, those individuals are going to be connected to the tree that you are looking at? The answer will probably be no. Okay? Again, I don't have experience with that, and we can go to support and have more experienced people. Again, my take will be try it. And if it doesn't work, you can always delete and just fix your tree. Okay. I would like to answer a couple of questions from the audience on the webinar. Sandy is asking if the auto cluster is a premium fee, a premium membership tool, and the answer is yes. You need to have either a premium, premium plus, or complete account on MyHeritage in order to access the auto cluster. There was another question here from Sandy again. She's saying that yes, we use the word historical records for our collection, but the truth is that that includes 3 collections of family trees, not the records itself. And yes, Genie, Family Search, and Wiki trees are considered by MyHeritage historical records, although they are not the regular records that we're used to, right? To paper and annotation. The reason for that is because those are trees that are not built by MyHeritage users. So again, it's a third source. It's not like a primary for MyHeritage that you can contact the user. You still need to go there and to find out if this is correct or not. Patriva or Patriva, yes, because I'm trying to source all info on my trees. If it's possible to have more than one tree on the website, yes, it's possible. I already answered that. One with sources and one with unverified help from family. I will definitely not suggest you to have two trees, like one sourced and one not sourced, or one pending and one perfect. Probably what you want is more like a to-do list or a log where you can annotate all the facts, as Thomas was telling us in our previous webinar. And over there, once you are sure that this is the information, then you put it on MyHeritage. Yes, we have another question from the audience. One by one. Okay, so the question was a very bad experience with importing JETCOMs. And yes, sometimes that can happen, especially with linking images, because a JETCOM is a TXT file, it's only text. And only if you have the URL and the image is on the website and it's available, or it's in a folder and the JETCOM knows how to go into the folder, and only if the place where you exported the JETCOM build it properly, then you will be successful. That is why there's also tools on the internet that will allow you to try and test the JETCOM and make sure that the connections are working. Most of the websites today will give you a good experience importing and exporting the JETCOMs. But yeah, sometimes happens, and depending on the amount of people that you have in the tree, I have suggested people just manually, and it will be a good time, again, as my friend Thomas suggested, to restart your genealogy. Just to go hundreds of people, believe me, it's still easy. When you have more than 5,000 people in the tree, then you can start to concern. Okay, so I'm going to answer the very last question here from the audience. It's talking about a 90-year-old mother that wants a DNA test, and this is Marcia asking the question. First of all, MyHeritage has a swap test, not a spit, so this is actually an advantage. And yes, Marcia, you are asking if she can give a DNA sample and the kit can be kept private, only for herself and the mother. Well, not really. Once you do a DNA test, you will get your ethnicities and you will get your matches, and everybody that matches your DNA will receive and will see your information or your mother's information there as well. What I can recommend you is either use a nickname or something that people will not recognize that this is your mother or this is you, like my mother, first name my, second name or last name mother. That will do it, okay? But yes, mainly the goal of doing a DNA test is trying to find other people, so it will be discoverable by others. Again, let me thank you, all of you who attended this webinar from whatever in the world you are. I would like also to thank our people here in the MyHeritage headquarters in Israel. And again, I hope you have enjoyed and you have learned a lot today. Have a wonderful day, guys.